Hello and welcome. This video is about the racism that I've experienced personally in the last couple of years that I've been living in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Most of it is subtle. None of it is violent racism, but it is racism nonetheless. So I'll just kind of randomly tell you these little stories that I've experienced. I'll be sure to tell you of the ethnicity of the person who was discriminating against me for each story that I tell you. So, generally speaking, I would say, let me start over. I spent the first 17 months or so in an ultra-conservative area of Saudi Arabia. And you would not see anyone not wearing a niqab. Many women would wear the complete face veil, not even covering their eyes, but an extra layer of fabric. In this area, the women also wore the abayas that had the little section that kind of makes you look like a hunchback because it goes over your head and down this way. Many women would also wear black gloves so they would not show any skin whatsoever. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what this area was like. In this area, I made a conscientious decision to stop wearing the niqab because I would get some of the dirtiest looks you could possibly imagine. And I couldn't figure out why, because I was doing as they do and not trying to stand out or do anything like that. So I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. Some of the people in that city could give you a mean side eye. Like it would make you alarmed, honestly. At least it did for me. And I decided to stop wearing my niqab because I feel like they assumed that I was maybe of one of the races of people that come here as migrant workers, as in laborers, as in unskilled workers, mostly South Asians. I have been asked before or been told that I was from Bangladesh, India, Pakistan even, because a lot of these people from these ethnicities or of these ethnicities happen to be my color. And that's fine, but at the same time, for sure, there definitely was a degree of hate. So in some ways, I guess, now that I think about it, they were offended that I would dare wear the niqab that the Saudi ladies wear, or Islamic ladies, however you want to think of it, because maids don't wear the niqab. So maybe they were like, why is this maid wearing the niqab? Is she out of her mind? So I'm guessing that this was the logical progression of this thing. So that's a little bit about my experiences with the niqab. I just stopped wearing it, and I assure you, after I stopped wearing it, I really did not experience the same level of hateful glances that I was getting, because they could see that I was not, obviously, South Asian. So they had no choice but to stop. So on to the experience at the gold market in this same city. I never invested a lot of money into any abaya that I've purchased since I've been here because it seems silly. I'm not Muslim, so I'm not really necessarily putting a whole lot of thought into what my abaya looks like. Well, that's just my rationale. Some people get really tacky, glittery ones with like rhinestone or like really ugly lace. I mean, it's just an abaya. The purpose of it is to detract attention. So it doesn't make any sense to get one that draws it. Some of them were cheap, very cheap. At the same time, some of the classier or the classy, wealthy Saudi women would wear nice abayas. And I don't mean garish when I say nice, I mean like nice fabrics, abayas that had really nice embroidery, so on and so forth. So imagine being a racist Saudi and seeing someone who you already are assuming is some South Asian maid with a niqab on, with a cheap abaya coming to buy jewelry. I mean, if you're racist, you're going to judge her and think, oh my gosh, she has no money to spend. She needs to get out of my store. Well, this is essentially what happened. I wanted to buy some gold jewelry. By the way, in this area of the world, the gold content is much purer and you can get really nice jewelry for reasonable prices. Much better than you can get in the States. So, being that I do that, I went to go buy jewelry, and this guy, this kind of like big, burly, loud Saudi man was yelling at me. I went to sit down to wait my turn because I realized I was a little too anxious to get at the jewelry. And once I sat down, like, he was pointing fingers and yelling, and I was like, oh my God, I wanted to die. Especially because I had been to that same store maybe a month earlier and had some sort of camaraderie with the regular Saudi males that were there, and I even bought jewelry there, and they didn't really take up for me. But I think I ended up going back after the guy wasn't there, something like that, and I think they did say, yeah, she's bought things from us before, or something like that. This was before I had made a decision to stop wearing my niqab. After I stopped wearing my niqab, I went back to the store because, you know, your girl's a little ornery, and he just so happened to be there that day. And I reached over and kind of looked right at him. He didn't say shit. As a matter of fact, he looked kind of stunned, and I could tell that he felt in some way, at least in my interpretation of the face that he made, that he was a little bit ashamed of himself. Truly. Yeah. So that was the other story. Let's see. Okay, so on to the public hospital. I don't know why the driver who drove me to the hospital decided to drive me to a public hospital, but he did. I just needed to go to the hospital. I had come from Amsterdam probably like a few days prior to getting back to Saudi, and I didn't wear proper clothes, and I came down with a really bad strep throat. So I came out of my apartment and went down to the security and was spitting because I couldn't swallow my spit. It was too painful, and I was taken to a public hospital where it's always annoying because they often ask where you're from, no matter where you're at. I mean, just maybe out of interest, but I think sometimes a lot of it is just out of pure racism, because I feel like they're trying to figure out then how they will behave or treat you based off of what they know. I'm sorry, you know, let's not pretend like racism doesn't exist and that people like this don't exist, because they do. So I had to go through that whole thing with one of the nurses who was Saudi, but she was okay. I guess word got around that America was in a public hospital, and some Filipino nurse, ego's way out of control, was on her way coming, and I heard one of the Saudis say, "The Americans in here," and she's on her way coming, and she says something like, "Oh, her?" And I'm like, this honoring, blah, blah, blah. And then she comes over and starts asking me questions like, "Oh, how did you get to move to America? How long have you been there?" I'm like, wait a second. Let me breathe. I was born in America. My family's family, we're all very American, okay? Thankfully, this woman didn't take my blood. The Saudi nurse took my blood. You know, when people act like that, I don't want them anywhere near me, touching me, as I'm sure many of you wouldn't. The Saudi lady took my blood from my hand, and she ended up causing this little blood bubbles thing to come and bruise. I'm not blaming her, maybe she was really nervous. But that was another experience involving racism. Another was at an esthetician's office where there's an Egyptian esthetician who heard from one of the Filipino nurses that I was Pakistani or Bangladeshi or something like that. And she did that to start trouble, because when I came in, she was like, "Cover your face," and I said, "I'm American, I don't have to cover my face." And I went to the office and I started talking to this Egyptian woman. She starts drilling me with questions about, "Where are you from? How long have you been there?" Like, I can't remember, but it made me super, super uncomfortable. And even though I kept telling her that I was American, she kept questioning me more and more and more. I stayed there like an idiot instead of just like walking out and slamming the door. And she wasn't even really selling her products. I told her what I was interested in, and she's like, "Oh, well, why do you want that? Why do you want that?" She even at one point said, "You're not Saudi, you're not Arab, why are you here?" And I was just shocked and amazed. I did eventually, after this sort of emotional beating, get the courage to walk out on this sloppy, fat Egyptian woman with issues and insecurities, and that was that. Ugh, what a pig. I'll never forget that. And so those are the more specific stories, but in general, I would always get the, "Oh, where are you from originally?" Or, I mean your roots, or questions like that. I have in the past made the mistake of doing that to somebody, and so I'm aware of it. When I was in Amsterdam in this Chinese food restaurant, I was speaking with one of the guys behind the bar who's of Asian descent, and I said, "Oh, so where are you from originally?" or something like that. And he goes, "Yeah, I was born here in Holland." And I'm like, "What?" So I don't make that mistake, but I have been in the mall getting tea before with some Filipino guy, and he said something like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm American." That should have been the end of the conversation right there. However, he had to go and add the, "Oh, Black American?" Like, come on, dude. Leave it at that. Leave it at that. Like, don't try to tell me who I are or try to qualify who I am as a person, because guess what? That makes you racist, bro. Oh, people are so ridiculous. I find it kind of shocking and amazing at the same time that people still presume that people don't migrate and travel and move, maybe because it's really maybe impossible for most people, but it does happen, and we all are very culturally diverse. I mean, America is the melting pot of the world. Everyone should know that. We have a great country, us Americans, ha ha ha. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Take care. See you all later. Feel free to ask any questions if you have them. Leave comments. Take care again, and bye. Hi, I'm back. So I was just now cleaning the house and my mind was in free flow mode. Thoughts were coming and going, and all of a sudden, I have no idea why, I had a memory. And I realized that this memory hadn't been talked about in the video about racism. So I got the old camera out to tell you this story. So this happened in that ultra-conservative area in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that I was living in when I first arrived here. I was at this store, that's a discount store, that's almost like the equivalent of Walmart, but even more country, if you can imagine that. They have a makeup section, a little makeup section in the right-hand corner, right after you enter the store. And I was back there looking at the makeup and just really killing some time, and this Saudi lady came over. I'm not sure how the initial interaction began, to be honest, but she saw me looking at the makeup and she's gesturing. I'm guessing she's gesturing like what? Like, what do you want? She probably was aggressive, and maybe I was like, Mafi, or no, or just looking, maybe like pointing to my eyes, just looking, trying to convey the message to her that I just wanted to be left alone, left to just look around and explore. I don't know what led up to it, but she starts very violently showing me all the makeup that was intended for light-skinned or just even white, I won't say white people, but just very light-skinned people. And she's kind of showing me one shade and then showing me the next shade and then showing me the next shade, and I'm just like shocked. I think at one point one of her Saudi co-workers came over and she kind of laughed uncomfortably. I don't remember what I did. Knowing me, I probably just continued to browse because I don't let idiotic people like that bother me. But yeah, that happened. I don't know what her problem was. It could have been that she got jealous because she was at work and I wasn't. People do think that simplistically around here. At the same store, there was also an Indian manager who had the deadest psychopathic sort of look on his face all the time. I mean, he would look at me and make me feel so unwelcome, like I didn't belong there, like I didn't have a right to go shop there. I continue to go there though because they had what I needed. I need beauty supplies. I like to take care of myself in certain ways, so I continue to go. I do think that that woman stopped working there, although I would only go like every other 2 weeks or maybe once a month. I never saw her again, and if I did, she never approached me that same way. It did seem to get a lot calmer there over time, so maybe that girl and her clique of friends just decided it wasn't for them. I doubt that they were fired. I mean, this is Saudi in a very ultra-conservative area, but yeah, and that guy ended up becoming a manager. That strange man. Anywho, I hope that you enjoyed the little update, and that's all. Take care. Bye.